Red Sox sweep the Blue Jays in a 4-game series.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignaszewski, and here, as always, with my co-host, NESN's Lauren Willand. And I don't know about you listening to this episode, you're excited for the weekend, you got a smile on your face, but I'm not only excited for the weekend, but this Red Sox team is really good right now, so I don't know how you can't be happy with how things are going.
They're a lot of fun to watch, and I mentioned this in Thursday's episode that when they went down during Wednesday's game, they never felt like they were out of it. Like the bats are they're heating up at the right time. The pitching I'd like the pitching to be a little bit better, but there are not a lot of complaints given that they're just doing their job. And I think that right now on May 5th, they're surprising a lot of people and they're surpassing some expectations right now. I hope this can keep up because this is a fun team, and Adam Duvall is still, going to come back soon. And I obviously, where he fits in this lineup, but it's also like, whose bat are you taking out to make the spot for him? It's a good problem to have, but a lot of fun watching baseball. This is a much different tune than we were singing 1 year ago today.
And it really is crazy looking back at 2022, not only how different the feeling is, but also how different the team played against AL East teams. Like we saw them struggle time and time again. I don't think they won a series until way later in the season, and they just swept the Blue Jays in a 4-game series. And this is the first 4-game series they've swept an AL East team since August 2018. Their first 4-game sweep of the Blue Jays at Fenway since a 5-game sweep in July of 2002. And I'm guessing it was like a doubleheader or something like that, but I don't know. I was 3 years old.
Wow. I was 13. But no, something like that just goes to show how hard it is to sweep a 4-game series. It's hard to sweep a series in general, but a 4-game series against an AL East opponent, and the Blue Jays in particular. I know that the Red Sox struggled against all AL East opponents last year, but the Blue Jays, they just could not figure out. So to see this happen this early, and the Blue Jays are a good team. I know that Springer has struggled a little bit, but you look at who's on that roster, and they are a good team. And now the Red Sox have kind of catapulted their way over them and the Yankees in the AL East standings. It's fun baseball. And I think that they have a lot of momentum on their side right now. And now they're going into a series with the Phillies. I almost said the Flyers, but with the Phillies, and just keep carrying that momentum into this next series because all of it is on their side right now, the Red Sox side, especially after completing this 4-game sweep.
And, it's interesting how the tone sort of changed from the week right after Adam Duvall's injury, where the offense sort of seemed like ghost, like nobody was really stepping up. And we were thinking, somebody needs to, have the spark. Rafael Devers can't be the only guy who's scoring runs, and you can't expect him to go 4 for 4 with 4 home runs every single up at bat to score runs for this team. And now we're looking at it, a few weeks later, the Red Sox have the second best on base percentage in baseball and the second lowest strikeout percentage with 19.6%. And, we talked about the patience, and, it's definitely showing not only in the stats, but also on the play. It's been really great to not only see the power display, but also the lineup's ability to get on base in multiple different ways.
Yeah, they're putting the ball in play. They're drawing walks. They're taking advantage of some errors from other teams, the sloppy defense of other teams. And they're being aggressive in a good way on the base path. I know we saw a lot last year where it's like, what the hell are you trying to do? Steal a base like that? But they look very locked in, very tuned into what's going on. And now it's, that's translating into wins because even though sometimes they're still swinging at pitches, that's always going to happen, that are just so far out of the zone. Like what the heck are you swinging at? But beggars can't be choosers. And I think that with this win streak, with the series sweep, and just how everyone looks at the plate. I mean, you have people drawing walks. Like I said, they're just taking advantage of any kind of error that their opponent is doing, any miscue by their opponent. They're taking advantage and they're making sure they're getting on base and then taking advantage of it which we knew last year how much of a problem leaving runners on base and runners in scoring position was. And it looks like they're a whole new team this year. And yes, they are a whole new team this year, but those little things, so taking advantage of those little things translates into wins, and we're seeing it in real time.
And one thing that made the 2018 team so lethal was their ability to be aggressive on the base pass and really take advantage, like you said, of any sort of miscue that the opposing team made. And I think last night's game on Thursday it was a perfect example of Springer not getting the ball in that quickly into the infield, and Rafael Tapia find a way to round first and sort of get a double out of like a little bloopy single. And Duran did the same exact thing like a week and a half ago. And it is interesting when you brought up how much the Jays really beat down on the Sox last year. You always go back to the 28-5 game, and it's really crazy thinking back to last year, now looking at it to this season. Rafael Tapia and Jarren Duran in the same lineup are smacking around Kevin Gausman, the Jays ace. Who would have thought?
It's funny to see. I mean, I know that the NESN cameras caught on Thursday Duran and Tapia in the outfield, just kind of having a good time. And it's just so much can change in a year, and so much can change in the matter of a few months. And, you mentioned Duran and Tapia now being teammates, but you also look at Duran, who's just done a complete 180 from last year. And there was a lot of questions about his maturity. He opened up about his mental health a little bit, and just having the interactions, the negative interactions with the fans, some negative interactions with the Woo Sox and their fans as well, or the opposing fans. It's just a complete 180. I don't know if, he got necessary help in the support system, but he looks like he's having a lot of fun, and he looks like a much different player. And yes, of course, he caught fire right now. That could all fade out very soon. But to see the change in him just from the 28-5 game to Thursday's game is huge. And I think that's going to be huge for him and huge for the Red Sox, no matter which direction they want to go. I mean, he could be upping his trade value right now, or the Red Sox could be like, okay, we hit on this guy. He's finally coming into being this really strong, serviceable MLB player. We're going to keep him around, or you could just get a really nice haul for him. Who knows? But whatever Duran did in the offseason and what he did in Worcester to start the season is working. And it's like you see it right now, what he's doing at the plate, in the outfield, just a very good turnaround for him in general.
Yeah, and the energy is just completely different. I mean, when they were doing like a pitching change, he had his glove on his head,
Yes.
smile on his face, laughing with Tapia, and even Yoshida too. And you can think about like that language barrier, but it's still cool to see a guy like Yoshida still like finding ways to make jokes with his teammates, and still finding ways to get to know each other as well. And you're starting to see Casas get a lot more comfortable at the plate too. There's a lot of people throughout April that were really hard on Casas, and the strikeouts were a big uptick, and he was swinging at a lot of pitches, and wasn't able to catch up to some of these hard MLB pitchers in the strikes that they were throwing. But he's been able to show the patience that we already knew, but now he's starting to correlate that to getting on base outside of walks, and getting hits left and right, which is really good to see for a young guy like him who we've been waiting to sort of get the gears flowing.
And the other night, if it was just a little bit windier at Fenway, he probably would have had a grand slam. So, it's just, he's getting a lot more luck. And you look at his on-base percentage, and I talked about this in Thursday's episode, that his on-base percentage it was in, 297, 257, it was 2-something-7. But then his batting average was like 150. So, you look at it, stats don't tell the entire story. Of course, you want that batting average to get up. But I think that the more he comes into his own and he just continues to work the pitchers, he's a very smart person. He's a man of routine. And I think that eventually he will figure this out. He's 23, he's a rookie. This is his first Major League Baseball season. And Alex Cora, he said that, Costa said that Cora instills his confidence in him. And then you think back to Dustin Pedroia's rookie season and how the Red Sox stuck with him. And Alex Cora was playing alongside Dustin Pedroia. And they saw how when you stick with someone that you have a lot of confidence in, that it can pay off. And I think, and I'm not saying that, Casas is going to have this incredible rookie season and win the Rookie of the Year award, but it's just a matter of being patient. And we've preached patience a lot. And I think that needs to ring true with Casas, because you look at, he's very athletic. We see the patience at the plate in terms of drawing walks. And we've seen the power from him. So it's just a matter of like figuring that out, getting his timing right. he's going to be fine. And I'm excited to see how he continues to grow this season, especially that, having that confidence that your manager is sticking with you. That's got to be really good for the mental game, the mental side of it as well.
Yeah, I agree. And especially, with a young player, that mental game is so important. We spoke about it with Jarren Duran, and, you brought up the rookie of the year, one guy who's, leading the conversation right now, Masataka Yoshida. And it's interesting looking at, statistics over the last, 15 days or so. Yoshida and Duran are 1 and 2 in terms of batting average in all of the MLB. Yoshida's batting 446, Duran is batting 429. So two of the Red Sox outfielders who you could still kind of consider Duran a little bit of a rookie. Two really young Red Sox outfielders who are finding ways to not only get on base, but really drive in a lot of runs for this Red Sox team. But we're going to break down, Thursday's game and Brayan Bello's start more in our second segment. But before we do that, Lauren just wants to talk to you about Rocket Money.
So if you're like me, sometimes you just do the free trials of subscriptions, but before you know it, that free trial turns into a monthly subscription and you just completely forgot about it. But Rocket Money can help you find those unwanted subscriptions and cancel it for you. Maybe you had one of those try it free for 30 days, that Stars app that you wanted to watch that one show, that one episode, and all of a sudden it's just another monthly charge on your bank account. You're not alone. I'm not alone. In fact, over 80% of people have subscriptions that they forgot about. You'd be wasting money, not even realizing it, but Rocket Money helps you find those forgotten subscriptions so you can stop paying for the ones that you don't use. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Because most Americans think they spend around about $80 a month when actually it's closer to $200. And if you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need Rocket Money because it's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps you lower your bills all in one place. So you just go in, it finds all of your subscriptions, and all you have to do is hit cancel on the ones that you don't want. It's that easy. It saved me a ton of money and it can save you a ton of money per month. So stop throwing your money away, cancel those unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. One more time for those in the back, rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb.
So in the first segment, we talked about the patience as well as how productive the Red Sox offense has been over this first month, and you can call it a few days or so. But, one thing that I think that patience at the plate really helps is being able to drive up the starting pitcher's pitch count. And the Red Sox have knocked out the opposing starter before he completed the fourth inning 10 times this season. That's the most in the MLB, and no other team has done it more than 6 times. And we saw the Red Sox score 6 runs in the first 2 innings on Thursday's matchup. And I think that when you score not only that amount of runs, but when you drive up the pitcher's pitch count really early in the game, that puts a lot of pressure, not only on the starting pitcher, but the entire team on how they're going to really plan out the rest of the game with the bullpen and having to sort of come back into the game. And I think that just puts a lot of pressure on any opposing team. And you got to be happy with what the Red Sox have done early in games so far.
Yeah, that pressure is very important. I mean, we've seen several times the Red Sox going down late in games or going down early in games and not being able to kind of crawl back from that and claw away at that deficit. And now that's what they're doing. I mean, putting up 6 runs, of course, is great. Putting up 3 runs should also be enough to be able to kind of hold that lead. But in doing so, when you're creating that pressure for the opponents, you're also adding a little cushion for your team, and especially your starting pitcher. And for someone like Brayan Bello to have that lead, thank God he did, because we did see a little bit of a struggle in the 5th inning from him on Thursday, and the Blue Jays started to kind of claw back. But having that extra cushion, as much pressure as it causes the other teams to be like, okay, we're down early, there's still a lot of game left, we have to get going. It also helps your team in being like, okay, we have a bit of a cushion here. Let's not ruin it by any means. But if they score a run or two, it's going to be okay. We still have that cushion there. And it probably gives your starting pitcher a little bit more confidence going into an inning when you're up 6-0 instead of being down 6-0.
Yeah, 100%. And, we saw a lot of different guys on the offensive side, not only, make a big impact, but somebody also passed a milestone. Rafael Devers hit his 150th home run. He's the 18th player to hit 150 for the Red Sox, but only the 3rd to do so before turning 27. And the one thing that I always think about is, especially after, we saw Albert Pujols past 700 and, Miggy past 500, 2 years ago. that's why I always think about looking at these sort of players like Juan Soto or Rafael Devers earlier in their career, being able to pass these milestones. And all I think about is, could we see Rafi, rounding around the bases hitting 500 at some point?
I mean, it's not an impossible task. It's an improbable feat for sure. I mean, maybe. I think that he does have that potential. I mean, we know the power. We've seen his power, but I wonder too if I mean that should never be like. I mean, of course, it should be a goal, but that should never be like the end goal to make sure I hit 500. I think that he still needs to calm down on some of his swings, and I think that we know he has the power. We know he can hit moonshots, but sometimes I'm like, this man is going to throw out his back before he's 30, because the swings he takes, I'm like, I just threw out my back watching that. But I think that if he kind of calms down that swing and stop swinging for the fences and maybe start swinging to put the ball in play, which I think we've seen a little bit more of, then maybe that becomes clearer for him, a clearer path for him. But obviously, I'm not putting any money on it. It's something fun to think about, because I mean, how long has it been since someone has hit 500? I think it's almost like Wayne Gretzky's goal record. It's going to it likely will get broken by Alex Ovechkin in the coming years, but it's something like that. Well, will we see anyone kind of do that again? Who will it be? Because MLB has a lot of superstars in it right now that have a lot of power that could do it. Could Rafael Devers be included in that category? Perhaps, but I feel like MLB has enough players, or superstar players, power hitting players, that could be a possibility at some point.
And, I always go back to 2021 playoffs when he sort of like, it was either his wrist or I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was swinging out of his shoes every single swing. And, you could just see the agony in his face after some of those swings in the 2021 playoffs. So definitely want to try and avoid that. But, there was a lot of guys in this Red Sox lineup who went 5 for 3 in this game. Yoshida,
3 for 5.
Or 3 for 5. I said 5 for 3. Oh my gosh. 3 for 3. Yoshida went 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Devers went 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs. Then we saw Jarren, Duran, and Justin Turner pretty much have the same exact output, 3 for 5 with 1 RBI. But it's nice to see, the Red Sox have multiple guys that they can look towards to not only be able to get on base, drive in runs. And, it seemed like anytime Masataka Yoshida came up with anybody on base, he showcased it in the WBC, breaking the record in RBIs, but now really not only showcasing his power, but also his on base ability. Like I said, went 3 for 5 and extended his hitting streak to 14 games. I think Joe DiMaggio is getting a little bit nervous.
It's been incredible to watch him. And I know that, I had, not doubts, but I had, concerns. I was cautiously optimistic about this guy. And I know that you were too, but we knew that this is the kind of power that he possessed. And it was just a matter of, can what he did in Japan, can what he did in the WBC translate to MLB? And right now it has. He looks very good at the plate. He's got power. He's scoring runs. He's having a lot of fun, which I think is also very important in your first year in MLB. You can't really speak English, so you're trying to connect with your teammates on a different level. And it's so much fun to watch. And I love the dumbbells. I know that I love when teams have something special like that, and just something like quirky after home runs or something. And it's fun, and it kind of adds to the chemistry of this team. And especially when they're winning, especially when they're sweeping an AL East opponent, it makes it all the more fun. I love what I've seen from him. And you mentioned, several players having multi-hit games. It was also encouraging to see every player in the starting 9 have at least 1 hit. So it's, that's a good sign that this offense is clicking, and it's just good to see. We're watching fun Red Sox baseball.
And, I think as well, it's easy to look at the projections at the beginning of the season, at least for specifically Yoshida, because we didn't know what we were going to get.
Right.
You can look at what he outputted in Japan, but, we talked about it all offseason. We expected him to struggle early, and, he did. I think he had a 0 for 17 slump, but after that, he really just clicked it into gear. And it's really interesting because I've not only been looking at this, with Yoshida, but also with Verdugo too. Because Verdugo has 5 home runs, and he had 11 last season. And, Masa has 6 this year so far, and they projected him to have 18 to 19. So obviously there's going to be a little bit of a dip off where they're not exuding this much power as consistently, but like, it really is tough not to try and like guess what we're going to see at the end of September in terms of home run numbers. Obviously, that's not the only thing that matters, but especially for both guys like Verdugo and Yoshida, who you expected them to get on base, but you didn't expect this much power. And it's interesting looking at the 18 or 19 number of amount of home runs at the end of the season. That looks like an underestimation right now for Yoshida.
I think Verdugo is on pace right now to hit 25 home runs, which is incredible. I mean, I know his brother had mentioned that he was hurt at the beginning of last season. He had the broken toe, and there was other issues that he was facing throughout the season. And to see him completely healthy, and to see Alex Verdugo just kind of come into this really strong baseball player, he keeps this up. He's hitting his way into the All-Star game, which is crazy to think that 2 years ago, 3 years ago when he came here, it's like, well, if he can at least just be serviceable, which I've said that too, then it'd be a fine trade for the Red Sox. And it's been a lot of fun to watch him this year. I mean, he already has so much swagger and just so much personality to him, and to see him be able to show that off even more because he's playing very well and the team is winning, I think is a lot of fun for him, the Red Sox, and their fans.
I agree. And, I think with a lot of these different guys in this lineup, it's tough to not have a lot of confidence when they come up to the plate. But one guy, Red Sox fans, and I think the front office as well, is trying to get back to that confidence level with a guy like Brayan Bello on the mound. Has struggled so far in his past few starts, obviously coming back from that forearm tightness earlier in spring training, and just hasn't really looked the same. And, you brought up those struggles in the fifth inning. But, the one thing that I saw from Bello that we haven't really seen too much in his last like 3 starts or so is his ability to have pinpoint control. It seemed like his changeup was super effective, was able to throw that 23% of the time, and got a lot of good swings and misses on it as well. Got 11 swings on that changeup. He usually used his sinker for the most part, threw it 47% of the time. But it was just nice to see him looking a lot more confident and comfortable on the mound, especially for him. I think a lot of people could agree that demotion was sort of just a roster move with the amount of pitchers that they had on the team. It was just manipulation. But he's sort of at this point needing to show that he's going to improve and continue to develop with each and every single start.
Yeah, and I think we saw he had an aggressive approach on Thursday that really worked out for him. And we know that the talent is there. We saw it in Worcester last year. We've seen it with the Red Sox. And now it's just a matter of, trying to settle down a little bit more and just continue to do what's worked for him in those earlier innings. And I think he's a starter. I would love to see him, almost as maybe a longer reliever, like an opener almost. And I think I had this, I think it was with Tanner Houck. I was saying that maybe that could be his role as well. But I love what I saw from Bello, despite, some hiccups. But I think that he's hungry, he's ready to go, and being able to go out there, get that run support, and then also shove. Like he looked really, really good at times. And I was like, this is the Bello that everyone has been saying, like, this is it. This is who he is. This is the Bello we've been waiting for. And I think he just has a few more things to work out. And bam, he's going to be could he be the ace of this rotation? That's a lot to ask right now. But I mean, you look at him, and I'll take him over Corey Kluber any day.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you look at that fifth inning. It seems like there's a lot of Red Sox stars that struggle in that specific inning and just aren't able to get out of it. Curious to see how things continue to develop, throughout the season with this starting rotation. But we're going to speak a little bit more on an update regarding a Red Sox bullpen arm that is on his way back. But before we do that, I just want to talk to you about BetterHelp. So I don't know about you. We've spoken about mental health a lot on this podcast. I'm somebody who looks at my self-development as a really important aspect of my everyday life. And, I'm always looking to figure out, why I do different things in different situations, how to go about some of these different tough situations that happen in life. And it's always nice to be able to have people outside of your parents or your friends that you're able to talk to about some of these tough situations. And, therapy has been a great tool for me to not only find more balance in my life, but also be able to keep supporting others without leaving myself behind. And so if you're looking for something similar and you're looking for somebody to talk to, BetterHelp is the best way to not only find a therapist really easily, but also find one that's not only entirely online, but one that has a convenient and flexible schedule that is suited for your schedule. And all you got to do is just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a licensed therapist and Swiss therapist anytime for no additional charge on BetterHelp. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonmlb today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonmlb. And, it's been nice to not only see Bello come back from injury, Paxton is on his way back. We're going to see him get one more start in Worcester before he comes back. But Joely Rodriguez made a rehab assignment in Worcester 2 days ago and ended up looking good. He just pitched one inning. He batters were only able to muster a flyout, a soft single, struck out swinging, and then another flyout. And I'm curious to sort of see the musical chairs that we see when Joely Rodriguez comes back. Is this the time when Brazier gets out?
I mean, maybe. Could this be the final, not the straw that breaks camel's back, but the final move that the Red Sox have to move Brazier, DFA him, release him, whatever. It's very interesting. And I think that, seeing the rehab start from Joely Rodriguez was very encouraging. It was, it's much better. I'd much rather what we saw from him in his rehab outing than, James Paxton 2 rehab starts ago when it just was not working for him. So very encouraging. And yeah, I mean, you said it, the musical chairs. What's the move? What's going to happen? Is Ryan Brazier going to make another cut that he probably shouldn't have made? It's going to be very, very interesting because, I mean, he looks like he's the odd man out right now. And I mean, he's looked like the odd man out how many times? So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's still on this roster when he comes back, just given how the Red Sox have held on to him. But if they do finally, DFA him or whatever, I think a lot of Red Sox fans are just going to be shocked that it actually happened and not the fact that it did happen. Just like, they did it. Oh my God, they did it.
Pitch me, I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at, Brendan Bernardino, a guy who came up, 2 weeks ago, he sort of cemented himself, in my opinion, in this bullpen on what he's shown you. He hasn't given you really any indication that he can't step up to the challenge of going against MLB batters. And, Brazier has shown you time and time again that, since 2018, when he sort of broke out, that, he's not that same guy. And so I think, the arrow is pointed right at Brazier, but it's pointed right at Brazier, as you said, for months now on time. So curious to see if it actually does happen. But if you want to continue to hear about all the updates regarding the Boston Red Sox, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Red Sox over on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to follow the podcast over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. We want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. And for our everydayers, Monday on the show, we're going to be recapping the Phillies series and the games that have been played over the weekend. So make sure to tune into that episode to get a synopsis and a breakdown of all those different games. But also follow myself on Twitter. It's at Jake Iggy. And also my co-host Lauren is 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in. The support really does mean the world to us. And we'll end this episode how we always end it. Keep the faith, stay positive, and let's go Sox. Peace.